And for 85 years, the principal goal, the foundational reason for existing has remained the same. Provide the greatest possible live music experiences. And I do what I do for a living because I love it so dearly and couldn't imagine doing anything else but spend a life in music, but also because I believe that there's nothing as powerful as a live music experience to really reach the soul. I think it's just incredible. So that has been the case for 85 years. We sort of have an old model and a new model, an older way of thinking that worked for some of those 85 years for the Portland Symphony, but as the times changed, as the culture changed, the economy changed over years, went through cycles, the older model didn't work, and now we've thought about what's the best new model for the 21st century. So I'm going to quickly walk you through some key points of the old model versus the new model. The old model included the fact that for the last decade or so, there was real financial struggle. We know about how life has been in the last even 30, 40 years, this cycle of economic boom and bust in the United States. The PSO had multiple years of running in the red, was dealing with deficits for quite many years. The old model to deal with that was to fund concerts with unknown sources. There was a sense of, not in Portland, but in the orchestras around the country, the maestro of an orchestra would say, "We must do the Mahler 8th Symphony next April. We must." And the business folks would say, "Well, yes, but that calls for about 400 performers and will break the bank, and it will go hundreds of thousands of dollars into the red if we do that concert." "Yes, but we must do the Mahler 8th Symphony next April. It's the right time. The muses tell me," and they would go with it. "Well, okay, we'll do the Mahler 8th, and we'll figure out how to pay for it somewhere down the road." That was part of the old model. The old model had a very us versus them mentality. Administrative folks and board members would square off against the musicians, and the musicians would sort of be out to say the administration is, the enemy, and they're the reason we don't make enough money, and they're the reasons we don't play enough concerts, and the music director would be a third party. That person would be sort of neither camp, and three forces would be working really against each other. There would always be this sort of dialing for dollars at the end of a fiscal year. So the way to make some of that money up, the unknown source was, well, we'll just wait till the last 2 weeks before the fiscal year ends, and then we'll all start dialing like crazy, every single human and corporation we know, to give us some money. Those are the kind of things that happen. And another very important one, the old model was to use next season's revenues to pay for the current season. So the rush would be on to start selling subscriptions for the next season as early as possible to make sure you had cash flow for the current season. You can see immediately, I'm the worst businessman on the planet, and I understand how that's a model for failure. That was the old model. The new model that we have undertaken at Portland Symphony and that works so well is, first and foremost, something that I think everyone's father told them or mother told them, and that was, live within your means. We made a strong commitment starting just a few seasons ago that, period, without questioning, we're going to live within our means. So the business side, the administrative folks, the board leaders, their charge was to make sure we did that. I felt that my role was to be sort of the keeper of artistic integrity, to work with administration to say, yes, we don't need to do this piece that calls for 300 people. We can do this piece of music instead that calls for 70 people, and it's still a great artistic experience. But if you ask me to cut our 4 rehearsals for this concert down to 2 rehearsals, that will be cutting into the artistic bone. The quality will drop, and we'll all suffer in the end. So that was, I think, my most important role in all of this, is to be that keeper of what is the bottom line. How far can we cut? How much can we tighten our belt? And still make sure we don't get into any problems artistically. We also began to really talk about the fact that all stakeholders are equal partners in this. Everyone has equal and shared responsibility. The music director, board of directors, administrative staff, musicians of the orchestra. We're all at the table. One thing I'm really proud of right now is that I think if you were to come to any meeting, committee meeting, scheme, planning meeting going on at the orchestra, you might see a group of folks around a conference table. And I don't think you would know from watching this meeting which person is a musician in the orchestra, which is a board member, which is a staff member, which is the music director. That's a great feeling that everyone has a seat at the table and everyone is responsible. We all have skin in the game. And that's an important concept that has worked so well in so many ways with the orchestra in the last couple of years. I think that what's most important for us as well is that while doing all that, while tightening our belt, and again, the administrative component of the orchestra can talk to you in much more detail about that if you have questions. We also wanted to make sure that we began to create experiences and real journeys with our live music, and not just, I need to come and I need to sit very still and I'm not sure when to clap. Was that the end of the music, or was that just the end of this third movement? I don't know what's going on. We really wanted to get away from that Victorian model of concerts, because I don't think they apply to the 21st century anymore. We want you to come to concerts at the Portland Symphony Orchestra because your jaw will be dropped at the end of the concert, because you will be there and you will cry and laugh and glee and wonder and have goosebumps because of the music and the way we have presented the experience. We want you to come because once we're in the building, everyone involved, the orchestra playing on stage, me, the conductor, everyone sitting in the audience, is a part of the performance. We wouldn't exist if no one was sitting in the audience, and the energy that comes from the audience is absolutely part of the journey that we all go on together. Please come to the Portland Symphony for those reasons. Do not come out of a sense of duty. The Victorian era I mentioned to you, really what happened in the Victorian era is after the wedding of Queen Victoria, the world moved into a sense of occasion, and everything became about a grand sense of occasion, which is great, and sometimes we still go for that feeling in concerts, but it just took us too far. I think you all probably know that feeling of, I'm not sure if I should clap right now or not. Did the piece just end? I'm not sure. Do you know that in the era of Beethoven and Mozart, which is 50 to 100 years before Victoria's wedding, the audience was quite different. After the Beethoven Violin Concerto was premiered, when it was premiered, the violinist finished the first movement of the three-movement concerto. After the first movement, the audience stamped their feet and hollered and applauded so loudly that the violinist went back and played the first movement again. They then kept applauding to the point that the violinist played an encore where he played the violin upside down before playing the rest of the concerto. So you see how times changed in that Victorian era. We also are moving to understand that music is music is music. There are two types of music, really, good and bad, and we want to celebrate all music. I'll tell you that by doing the things that I just briefly outlined, we have finished 2 seasons now, and my first 2 seasons as music director, both seasons in the black for the first time in a decade. And it feels very, very good to be part of that.